Screen is very smudgy. Ndewo. I think we're live. My screen is extra smudgy, so I'm trying to get that fixed. Give me just a second. Oh yeah. Aha. Hi Bella. Ndewo. Nwa Biafra said, Kedu ka unu dị? Anyị dị mma nwanne m, anyị dị mma. Princess Kaha from Genga. Kedu ka ị dị? Ross Jones, Kedu ka ị dị? Oh yeah, it's like we have 9 people in here. I'm going to get it going once we hit, let's say 15. I'll start going once we get to 15. All right, 9. Okay, cool. All right, so right now I see we got 9 people and 5 thumbs up. I need every single person to hit the thumbs up, hit like. If you are not subscribed already, hit subscribe. Hit the thumbs up. We've gone on to 8 thumbs ups. I should do it by thumbs up, not even by people. 10, boom. All right, we're matching. That means everybody has hit thumbs up. I don't want to see that number, that ratio slack. Princess Kaha, hey, why can't I see my initial comment anymore though? Got you, bro. Ross, all right. Udodi. I'm gonna put the Patreon up top too. So if you want to support the channel, this is the Medicine Shell. If you want to support the channel, go ahead and join us on patreon.com. So ratio, the patreon.com/the Medicine Shell. Patrons get access to my full in-house library. Damn, we got more thumbs up than people. All right, that's progress. That's what's up. Full in-house library. So everything I look at when I'm doing my research and studying and learning, I think we've reached the 400 document mark, maybe a little bit more. Patrons also have access to the full Odinani calendar, which I'm currently updating for the new year. So the patrons, you guys already know about that, but I'm updating it for the new year. It has all of the new moons, or like each moon and what it means, the significance of it. It also has each market day, so it lets you know which market day you're dealing with, which is very important for the topic we're doing today, which is Ekpere, right? Ekpere. So it's very, very, very important that we talk about the market days. My next video is going to be on the market days as well. One of the reasons I like this idea of going live every Friday is that it gives me, because like it takes about 2-ish to 3-ish weeks to make a video. So it gives me a little time in between to like still connect and put out stuff and so forth. Tata aiga mota maka kedu ihe bụ ekpere. Yes. So those of you who don't know what Nwa Biafra said, we have opened an Igbo language school at Kedu. Let me do www.kedu.me. So I think the next round of classes is going to be in June. We currently have the students in there now. In fact, if I turn up the volume on my phone, you'll hear the Ancestral 1 class. It's really blowing my mind how much people are picking up. We have phenomenal teachers and coaches. So like if you're a student, you'd have both a teacher and a coach. Your coach is going to call you every day and have like a normal conversation, or as frequently as you'd like, and have a normal conversation with you in Igbo. Your teacher is going to take segments of the language and break it down and teach you that kind of thing. So together they create a situation where you're learning, I believe, very effectively. But if you don't want to wait till June, and if the full course is maybe too pricey, you can do the language coach, where you get that part where the individual is calling you and you guys are having conversations every day and they're coaching you and helping you get better, things like that. So all of that is available at kedu.me, www.kedu.me. Nwa Biafra said, one name biko, emecham ka anyị kpee ekpere, anyị nweta obodo nke anyị, eziokwu, maka ihe ha na-eme na Nigeria dị egwu. Ọ dị egwu kwuo ọ maka na ọ zoo na maka na asị na ọ zoo, so ọ nọ zoo na-eme. But anyị ga-ekpe ekpere maka ndị Nigeria. Mgbe ndị na-ele reaches 15, I get bido, and mgbe ọbụla m na-ebido, ana m ebido with ekpere. So thank you for that, Mwa Biafra. I hope y'all caught what I just said. Sometimes I don't know, but yes, I hope y'all caught what I was saying just then. But Mwa Biafra was telling me that we have to make sure to pray on behalf of what's going on in Nigeria, because what's going on in Nigeria is no joke. Oh, Diego, like it's like uh, all the risky, you know. So I said yes. Once we hit 15, we'll begin. I'll include Obodo Nigeria in my Ekpere, but that Nigeria bụ ebe a na-akpọ zoo. It's what we call the zoo. So it's hard to pray for Nigeria, or Ekpere for Nigeria. Anyị kwesịrị gị igwe anyị Ekpere maka Nigeria ji egbe. Anyị kwesịrị iji egbe anyị kpee ekpere maka Nigeria. Oh, eziokwu now. Oh, maka all zoo, not the zoo. Yes, so all right. So man, everybody's like going hard on the Igbo today. So that's what's up. There were everybody. Hey, welcome, welcome, welcome. I'm going to begin once we hit 15. We keep lingering at like 12-ish, 14-ish. So if y'all got cousins, aunts, uncles, nieces, nephews that you can throw in here, tell them that we have gone live. And today we are going to discuss Ekpere versus prayer. What is the difference between Ekpere and prayer? The Christian church has translated Ekpere to prayer, but if you're a homeowner in Texas and you're still paying for electricity, then you can. But I think it's important to make the distinction because they are not the same thing whatsoever. So let's see here. There are a few overlaps, but it ends at the very surface level. We're at 13. If you're just coming in, hit like. Come on, people. Let's go. So this is how's the jollof rice. I haven't had jollof in a while, and honestly, I'm over jollof. I think the internet has overrated the hell out of some jollof. Like it's the only food that we eat. But I haven't had jollof in a while. I'm kind of over it. I'm Nibu Biafra. You now. Well, they quite mandatory. Oh, no, it's not a matter of opinion. So yeah. How's the jollof? Come on, people, let's go. Ndioka nebugi. Yeah. I got Bia now. Hey, we just hit 15. You say, all right, let me go get my UFO. Sure. Oh yeah. I always wear a blanket, even it's not even cold in here, but like it's my whole family, we do that. It's like our habit. Like if you go to our house, everybody has a blanket on them. But yeah, over jollof rice. I'm completely over jollof rice. What's my favorite Igbo dish? Right now, just because of cravings, ofe jile. That's snail soup. If y'all have never had it, you're not even gonna know the levels that I'm talking about. But like any ofe jile, so if you put a jile negusi, a jile noba, anything, yeah, that's what I'm craving really bad. And then I'm very simple in the morning: fried yam and red oil. So prefer a steady state model. Chimoge, we'll get to that. So Ndibo kwenu, Ndibo kwenu. Ndị Igbo kwezienụ. Ọjị abịala. Unu lekwa. Ebutara m ọjị. Ọjị abịala. Okike kere ụwa. Anyị ji ọjị na-ekele gị. Ala nne mmadụ na nne mmụọ. Alawa ala. Ọjị abịala. Anyị jikwa ọjị ike na-ekele gị. Anyị ji ọjị ike na-ekele ndị eke, ndị orie, ndị afọ na ndị nkwọ, ndị mbụ na ndị egede, ndị mmadụ na ndị mmụọ, mmụọ niile na-esoro anyị, mmụọ niile na-enye anyị ike, mmụọ niile na-enye anyị ije. Ọjị abịala. IGK na-ekele gị, na-ekelekwe ndị iche ka anyị ma aha ha na ka anyị na-amadị. Ọjị abịala, anyị ji ya na-ekele nnụ. Mana ọjị bụ ọjị eziokwu. Ebe ọbụla ị fụrụ ọjị, ị na-ele eziokwu, ị na-ele ihe ọma, ị na-ele udo, ị na-ele otu obi. Ụmụ mmadụ werekwa ọjị ka anyị ji ọjị ike na-ama onwe anyị na eke na orie na afọ na nkwọ ise. All right, so as always, I give acknowledgements to the creator. I give acknowledgements to the earth. I usually use okike keroa na alawala, or just alawu nai, anything like that, earth, right? After that, I give acknowledgements to the 4 market days, eke, orie, afo, and nkwo. I gave an acknowledgement to Ndimmadu and Ndimmo, which are y'all people and the people that we do not see at the moment that are with us, watching us, protecting us, following us, teaching us, consoling us, those types of things. They get their acknowledgements too. I gave acknowledgement to Ndimbu and Diegede, our first ancestors. I gave acknowledgement to the spirits which give us vision, which give us path, which give us our path, which teach us all types of things like that. And then from there, I said that anywhere you see the Oji, you are seeing the truth, or anywhere the Oji is placed, the truth has been placed forward. So in our ancestral tradition, an individual does not hold the Oji and lie. You cannot hold the Oji and lie, right? Because you are lying on your ancestors, you are lying on your own chi, you are lying on yourself, you are lying against the land, you are lying against every single thing you don't need to be lying against. You're lying against the creator, right? In Igbo mythology, it was said that the Oji, what we classify as Oji, which is a group of, let's call them fruits, a group of fruits that were selected by human beings in the garden of Obi Chukwu, when we individuals were what they call Ndimbu, which are the first ancestors. But it's important to remember the difference between Ndimbu and Ndiegede, or that Ndimbu were light beings. And these light beings were able to live in Obi Chukwu and Alam Madun, which is where we're at now, at will, going back and forth, with Obi Chukwu being their primary home, right? Now, when human beings became mortal, is when they became Ndiegede. And these were the first ancestors. Ndiegede were the moral ancestors who established the thing that we call Odinani and Igbo, right? So the natural sciences, spirituality, anything you want to classify it as, those are the ones that developed it. But when we were Ndimbu, when we were our first ancestors, which were the light travelers, they chose, Chukwu told them to choose anything from his garden, and they chose the Oji. And so Chukwu said that the Oji is what they're going to use to represent themselves, and their progeny is going to represent their connection to them, right? So we use that to show our connection to our first ancestors. We then also use it to show our connection to each other, right? I don't have it now, but if I had the kola nut, you would see that it splits into different parts. Sometimes it's 2. If you have a proper Igbo Oji, it'll break into 4, and then sometimes it'll be 5, 6, 7, larger numbers. If you're particularly lucky to find one, those are more rare, right? But all those divisions mean something. But as a symbol itself, that Oji means is more or less the core, like a way of seeing, the ancestral way of seeing the world and seeing people and things like that, right? As a composite of different things working together to form one single thing, right? So we see the Oji and the way it looks like the human heart. We understand that if you've watched any of my videos, you understand that an individual is a composite of 4 parts: Chi, Eke, Ago, Mo. There are also the 4 market days: Eke, Urie, Afo, and Nkwo. There are and then even the fact that an Oji is broken in a room. So each of us is an individual. We're all individuals. When you break the Oji, each piece is going to look different or have its own shape and that type of thing, right? But they fit together perfectly. So that's what that represents. And if you're lying and holding the Oji, you're lying on all of that, which at that point, In fact, you're already being punished naturally. So the so I said that anytime you see the OG, you're seeing the truth because our ancestors do not lie when they're holding the OG. Their ancestors do not lie when they're holding the OG. When you are also holding an OG, you become your ancestors. You're standing in for your ancestors. And what you'll find is that when an individual is striving to represent the first ancestors in the ancestral tradition, one of the standard things is you're going to stop lying, right? Once you become an ancestor, you stop lying. So, in bringing the OG forward, I'm not just bringing this OG for us, I'm bringing it for our ancestors and those we do not see, and so forth. And therefore, you do not lie while holding it, right? So, that's more or less the gist of what I was saying as far as the Igoji that I was performing, or the Iwaji, the breaking of the OG, right? Now, some people would classify Iwaji, the breaking of the Oji, as a prayer, right? Some people would classify it as just a, like, not just, but a ceremony, because the same way I'm going to do Iwaji at an altar is the same way I would do Iwaji at, if I had guests in my house. It's the same way I'm going to do it if I'm commencing an event. Anything where you're entertaining an audience or you're uniting a group of people, you begin by breaking Oji. If there's two Igbo people with each other, they must break Oji. And this is a tradition that I don't think young people do at all, right? Maybe eventually they'll start when they get older, but I don't see young people doing this at all. And that is the one that nobody should let go at all, at all, at all. So if you have guests in your house, you have people coming over, bring OG, make sure the eldest man in the room breaks OG for everybody and does the ceremony correctly. Make sure your children witness it, because from that ceremony you can piece together the rest of the culture, and that's what it was designed to do. Kola nuts are very important in many West African societies, absolutely, and it's not by mistake. It is not by mistake at all that throughout the whole of West Africa, they play this very significant role. So you can use kola nuts for divination. You use it for medicine. You use it for. It's funny too, because when you look at like the U.S. medical type of whatever, they put out studies of all the things that particularly afflict Black people, right? That particularly afflict Black people, and over, I find that one of the cures or one of the treatments for these things is OG, right? So things like heart and any cardiac issues, OG is good for the heart. It helps balance those things out. I think diabetes is one they said that afflicts Black people in specific. OG is good for that too. It's extremely healthy. They are yet to find one reason not to eat one every day. So yeah, one day, elebe is with that OG. I know na. Oh no, let me put it this way. It be na Houston, right? So izotanye omenala ndị Igbo around. It's not hard. And I live in Houston, so it's not hard to find things that pertain to Igbo culture. It's interesting, since I started Kedu, I speak more English during the day than I speak Igbo. So I'm very glad about, or no, I speak more Igbo than I speak English. So I'm super glad about that. Uh, I'm about to go get cola nuts. Yes, yes, Ross. I'm surprised you don't have some already, man. With the level you've reached, I'm surprised you don't have some. I'm so surprised you're not growing them. But yeah, let's see here. My mind can't fathom West Africa not praising jollof rice. No, jollof rice is super overrated. It's just some like internet, like, oh, Ghana, Nigeria. For one, like in the village, like jollof rice is like kid food. Like you don't see, you're not gonna serve unless it's like a big banquet where it's like you had to make like a mass produced food. You're not gonna serve some like dignitaries, you know. Dignity. You're not gonna serve like titled people jollof rice. That's ridiculous, you know. Unless again it's like a wedding or a banquet where we had to just make like mass food, you know, that kind of thing. I got to get some cola nuts. You can get them online. I want it. Egusi, yes, Egusi is fire. Okay, guys, let's go ahead and begin. So the topic today is Ekpere versus prayer. Ekpere versus prayer. So in order to understand the concept of Ekpere, we have to understand the root word, right? Which is Ekpe. And with the Igbo language, you'll typically see a word. And each word is, unless it's like an onomatopoeia, Like you're going like gong gong being like a can, right? So people say gong gong to say can just because of the noise it makes, right? So there's a lot of those onomatopoeia type of situations, but oftentimes a word is going to be rooted in a verb, because everything in our ancestral thought is a force, right? Everything is a force. It is, we don't, our ancestors don't see things in like the world as a world of things. They see the world as a world of forces, right? So words are typically based off of the action of that thing. Words are based off of the action of that thing. So ekpere, right? The root word is ekpe, which I'll go into the full meaning of that because there's a lot to it. That kind of thing. So if you look at the word ekpe, right, it is to do the action of be, you understand? But it's also a way of saying spirit, right? So if I look at my hands, right, this is akanri, akanri, you understand? And this one is akekpe, my left hand. Akekpe, akanri. Akanri means the food hand, the eating hand, right? Nri, akanri, the food hand, right? Or my mortal hand, the mortality hand, the mado hand, right? And then akebe is the akamo. Ekbe, more, same thing, interchangeable, spirit. Akebe is more. You understand? Now, what is particularly interesting is in the Afa language, when you're doing Afa, Aka as a whole just means anything is spirit, God, anything like that, right? The chi, chuku, spirit, all is said with the word aka. So akebe, and then akanri, right? So when we're talking about akebe, right, we're now going into the word ebe, which again has different layers of meaning. One of the layers of meaning could be understood by understanding the how do I put it this way? The pairing, the word that is often paired with epe, which is ipe. You understand? Ipe is when you're asking a human being for intervention, right? Ipe is most often used for judgment. So if you and I have a dispute and we go to a third party and that person sits down and serves as a judge for us, that person is performing ipe, right? Those who speak for an Eze or the Ikpeze, the council of the Eze, that type of thing, right? These are the people that intervene on behalf of the Eze. Is Ipe. That's the mortal version of Epe, when an individual is doing that. Or yeah, is Ipe. When you're entering the spiritual space and you're asking for intervention on a spiritual level, right? We now enter the term, or we're now doing ekpere, right? Which is doing it just like ekpere, that kind of thing. You're asking for spiritual intervention with ekpere, right? Now, here's the interesting thing. Most of what you're going to see in Odinani Igbo, as far as Iwaji, Igor Mo, Igor Chi, all these different ways of communicating with forces that are beyond what is visible, right, are not classified as ekpere. So what I just did now, while it may look like a prayer, it is not 100% a prayer. You can call it that if you want, but it is not a prayer. This is the same thing I'm going to, anytime there's a crowd of people, this is what I'm going to do to show respect to those that I can see, those I cannot see, and every force that I feel is relevant. It's a way of saying, hello, I acknowledge you. And that is why, if you pay attention, and I've done this many times with a lot of you guys, especially if you've been an audience member for a long time, you'll notice that a lot of my time is spent on acknowledging different things, right? Is doing almost like a roll call. You understand? Just acknowledging the creator, acknowledging the earth, acknowledging the 4 market days, acknowledging the spirits that follow us, acknowledging the spirits that are my chi. You understand? Acknowledging Onyeloromuwa, the person who returned into the world as me. All these just acknowledging and acknowledging, right? Now, I choose to then dedicate the Aji to something specific. But what you'll find with a lot of elders is that they will then, after that, speak of the importance of the Aji itself, right? They'll speak of the importance of the Aji itself. Now, this is all the Aji of our ancestors. This is the Aji that gives us life. This is the Aji that does this, this, and that. I personally choose to dedicate it to something. So I'm dedicating this one to peace. I'm dedicating this, so on and so forth, right? But they'll speak on the importance of that, right? And then from there, they'll commence, right? So if you think of prayer maybe in the Abrahamic sense, where it's because the popularity of the Abrahamic faith and things like that, it's very different. It's not necessarily like you're asking for intervention and so forth. So it doesn't fall into the category of Ekpere, right? It's Iwaji, the breaking of the Oji. It's similar to, and this is kind of, I don't even want to make the comparison because it doesn't do it justice, but it's similar to a toast, right? It's more similar to a toast. So if you want to classify the toast as a prayer, that's fine. Now, why is it important then in Iwaji to acknowledge all of these things, right? The thing is this: in the ancestral tradition, and you're going to see this throughout West Africa, there's an importance, there's a premium on acknowledgement, right? There's a premium on acknowledgement. Initiation into most societies is known as imamor, to know the spirit or to acknowledge the spirit. Oftentimes, all it takes is acknowledgement to activate something, or acknowledgement for that thing to then begin the connection, right? To begin to formalize the connection. You understand? Because there are a lot of, the way our ancestors see it, each individual is a universe. And when we come together in a room, we now form an even bigger universe, right? So I have a chi, I myself, I have a chi. But if this room was full of people, that gathering would have its own chi, right? And then if it's the whole country, a country has its own chi. The world has its own chi. And then from there, the universe has its own chi. So long as there's a gathering of people, the light of all those people will form the chi of that particular situation, right? It's going to form that, and that thing becomes a living thing onto itself, a living thing onto itself. So then when it comes to things like Iwaji or Igolfo, the same situation, similar situation, but with the Olfo rather than the Oji, acknowledgement acknowledgement is the power behind what is happening, right? Because as I'm standing now, to an ofeke, somebody who is not wise to what we do, the individual is, maybe I'm myself, and then maybe I'm my mind, and maybe I'm my spirit, things like that. And then from there, based on your belief systems, it usually shrinks from there. Like, okay, I'm just like a ball of cells that just moves around and talks and eats and that kind of thing, right? But then, right, our ancestors believe an individual is a universe. An individual is a universe, right? So that your consciousness, the amount of the extent of that universe, right? The extent of that universe is fixed. It's out there. But what you acknowledge is what you can tap into, right? What you acknowledge is what you can tap into. So if I give acknowledgments to the creator, I have opened the door for me to tap into the creator. If I give acknowledgments to the earth, I've opened the door for that to happen. If I list my ancestors by name, we're saying when I go to my own altar, I list my own ancestors by name. Na ejike, na menaha, na ukwebu, na faderwa, na kaweze. You understand? Then my dad, then myself, right? So as I'm doing that, I'm opening the door to acknowledge those individual parts of my universe. These are all the things that are in orbit. So that by the time I'm done, I have a full understanding and a full grasp and a full hold of the extent of me, right? That universe, that orbit, that everything that's orbiting in around my chi and so forth. I have a full understanding on the extent of me, right? And once you do that, you've acknowledged all these things, they are now active. The conversation has started, right? The most simple way to put it is, if you and I are walking past each other and I say hello, you say hello to me, the conversation has started. We can keep going from there. But there has to first be an acknowledgement, right? So when you see the ancestral tradition, when you go to the ancestors, there's very little asking the ancestors for things. And I'll get to why a little bit later. There's very little, so Snap just joined. Hey, Chimwendu, kedukide. So there's very little asking the ancestors for things. Rather, it is giving the ancestors their acknowledgement, right? So that in giving them acknowledgement, you are giving them life. I think in the previous discussion, we're talking about feeding. No, I'm sorry, that was the Patreon. Let me not try to get them confused. On Patreon, we had a really good discussion on how to feed more. What does feeding more look like, and so forth. And one of the things that we acknowledged was that acknowledgement is a means of feeding the spirit. right? Acknowledgement. Chinwendu, hey, nwanyoma, hi, igade, igeto, ihe ọbụla itiri aka ọ ga-adị n'ụwa, ọ ga-adị n'ahụ n'eke, n'orie, n'afọ na nkwọ, ise. Hey, Chinwendu, anyanwụ ụtụtụ, nwanyoma, ekelere m gị. Cool. So I said Chinwendu, morning sun. I greet you. So that kind of thing. So as I was saying, acknowledgement allows you to know the full scale of you, the full scale of you, and it allows you to start the conversation with those different parts of yourself. Now, if you're not inclined to believe that there is a universe, that you are a universe, you're seeing what I'm seeing right now is a piece of that universe, the piece that I'm supposed to see or I'm able to see because of who I am, right? As a regular onye in the world, right? So as I'm seeing what I'm supposed to see in the world, but there's a bigger me. There's a far bigger me. One of the ways of understanding this is if we just take away the spiritual dimension of it, right? And we look at the physical body. In order for me to move my hand, I have to acknowledge my hand. My brain has to make an acknowledgement of my hand. Now I can move my hand, right? Acknowledge, move. Acknowledge my legs, move. Acknowledge, move. Sometimes you'll make an acknowledgement and try to move it and it won't. Like when you have sleep paralysis, things like that, right? But typically when you make an acknowledgement on a body part, you're then able to move it. Now it happens seamlessly so that you don't need to think about it, right? You don't need to say, okay, leg, move, that kind of thing. You're already so in tuned and so used to doing that that it moves naturally for you, that you're already in rhythm with the whole of your body, that type of thing. Then you get people who, because let's say they work out, or because they practice yoga, different calisthenics, things like that, they're able to move their body with more dexterity than the average person or a person who doesn't work out those muscles as often, who doesn't make contact with those different parts of their body as often. One of the things yoga does is it allows you to make contact with parts of your body that you ordinarily would not, by making you put yourself in all these different positions and things like that. And in the end, you now have more dexterity. You can move your body around the way you move your hand, that type of thing, right? So when you're doing those acknowledgments, when you're going in the morning and you're doing acknowledgments to your ancestors and you're calling out your ancestors by their names, you're giving them their acknowledgments, you are connecting to that part of you as a universe. And you're developing your ability for spiritual dexterity, right? So that you don't necessarily need to say, hello, ancestors, I'm here, I need this, which is common with prayer, right? They're with you. They're with you. They're with you. If I'm walking and it's raining and somebody has an umbrella and I say, hello, ma'am, how are you doing? And then they see that I need an umbrella because it's raining, they have, I don't have, they might be inclined to put the umbrella over me or help me out in that situation, that kind of thing. You know, I don't go up to somebody who I don't know, haven't acknowledged, haven't even looked. I'm not even looking at you. I'm like, hey, give me that, give me the umbrella. That would be the opposite, right? Or that would be the going to your ancestors and just asking for things without giving them their regular acknowledgments, right? There's an Ilu set that says that a person who forgets his chi has been forgotten by his chi, right? Onyobola chefuru chia, chia chefulia, that kind of thing. Whoever, that type of thing. So keeping those relationships open with the full scale of you. Now, you does not end with you and your ancestors, right? There are parts of you, the universe of you is, we're constantly learning new things about it as the ancestral tradition grows and goes over time, that kind of thing. But some of the things that we're now aware of is that, like, we're not now, we've known this since the beginning, is that an individual has a spirit that reincarnates with them, or there's a part of you that has been reincarnating over time, right? A part of you, I spoke about it the last time, is known as your agun, or your onyowa. So that when you pass away, the four parts that make you, chi, eke, agun, mo, are going to go their separate ways. But the one agun, that one I listed, the third one I listed, agun, is going to begin the process of reincarnating, right? And it's going to return so that the agun that I have, right, the onyowa that I have, is the same onyowa that somebody before me had. Is somebody before me had. So then that person is also a part of my universe. It's one of the things orbiting around my universe, right? That type of thing. And the reason it came back was because it has a divine mission that when I say mission, it turns into like action. It has a divine state of being that it comes into the world to achieve. is coming to the world to achieve a specific state of being, right? And so that when it's returning, that state of being becomes my what's a good word for it? My purpose. It becomes my purpose and it becomes my truth. It becomes what is real to me. So that once I start acknowledging that aspect of myself, that is how I will begin learning that aspect of myself. So that when I go to my altar, if I'm aware of the person I reincarnated from, I'll say his name, sometimes her name, or like if you're a woman, her name, but like sometimes a woman can go reincarnate as a man or a man reincarnates a woman, that kind of thing's rare, but it happens, right? So when I say that person's name, my capacity to understand why that who that person is and why that they returned begins to grow, right? It begins to grow and it begins to increase, and it becomes that line of communication opens, so that I'm no longer saying, hey, let me get that umbrella. I'm saying, hey, Stephanie, how are you doing? Hey, I'm getting rained on right now, can I get under your umbrella? Okay, cool, bet. Or just because we talk all the time, Stephanie will see me and say, here you go. I don't know why Stephanie came to mind, but yeah, that kind of thing. So you are just the same thing you do with your body in yoga is what you're doing on a spiritual level or on an individual universal level when you're performing situation or ceremonies such as Igafo and Iwaji, right? So when I was listing all those things, I'm listing what I saw as the forces that were relevant for the particular situation we were in. I gave acknowledgement to the creator. I gave acknowledgement to the earth. I gave acknowledgement to the 4 market days, Eke, Uri, Afo, and Nkwo. And that allows us to do many things. Eke is the element of fire, it is the element of light, right? It is also the element of darkness, but I'll discuss my next video is on that, so I'll go into that, right? And so I gave acknowledgments to everything that comes into the world from that element, right? So each of these 4 days are doors that you use to come into the world. And the day you were born is the day that, of course, you came into the world and that kind of thing. And each of them have a specific nature, right? And that specific, you coming through that door tells you something about why you came into this world. So that by giving them their acknowledgments, especially the day that it is or your specific day, right? By giving them their acknowledgments, they begin to speak to you so that you can then understand that purpose again, right? You are Nweke, you came into the world for XYZ, that type of thing. But we can't have that conversation until we cultivate a relationship. That's the best way to put it. Cultivate a relationship. So, what you're doing when you're acknowledging your ancestors, you're acknowledging the 4 market days, which I did, is you're cultivating a relationship with those things. You're cultivating a relationship with those things, with those forces, with those individuals, with those spirits, and so forth, right? After the market days, I gave acknowledgement. Well, I said indeed, Chai, our ancestors. But typically, when I'm on my own or when I'm with my family, I'll do my own specific ancestors because I'm cultivating a relationship with those ancestors, cultivating a relationship with them, right? After doing that, I said that the spirits that follow us, right? So, individuals, when we come into the world, again, you're a universe. You have a whole lot of things floating around. Some of you have specific spirits, or most of you have specific spirits that are following you for specific reasons tied to the purpose that you were created for. So your chi is almost like a your chi is like an explosion. It's like this spark that sets off all these things, and that the big result is you. You understand? And all the things that come from your chi, or many things that come from your chi, which are not just you, right? There are what we can call mo uzi, which are spirits that give vision. A good English translation are muses. Some individual are followed by muses. You understand? A specific spirit that gives you a specific talent for a reason, right? Or gives you a specific inspiration for a reason, all tied back to that your original chi. So that when your chi creates you, it equips you with all the things you need to be, do, actualize, whatever the reason you were brought into the world to be, do, and actualize, and so forth, right? So sometimes it'll equip you with muozi, which are spirits that'll follow you and guide you. Sometimes it won't be the ancestor that reincarnated you, but it'll be one of your ancestors will be particularly close to you, and maybe appear in dreams often and be the one that guides and teaches you and so forth, right? Sometimes a particular abara might have a very strong role in your life, right? Might have a very strong hold on you, or they have the hold, but you're not returning the acknowledgement. So they're saying, Derek, 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 and you're not listening, right? That kind of thing. So that type of thing. So when you're doing these things, you're acknowledging your full universe. And the more you're aware of, the more you can acknowledge. And the more you can acknowledge, the more parts of your body you can exercise, your full universal body you can exercise for full spiritual health. For full spiritual health. Because if I go a year without moving this leg, I will lose the ability to use this leg. If I go a year without lifting anything, just not lifting anything, I will lose my capacity to lift. If I go an entire lifetime without acknowledging these things, um, I'll find myself somewhere taking all types of medicines, thinking that it's because I have low dopamine and all that shit, right? But really, I'm not acknowledging my full self. That's a big part of it. Nothing against people that take meds. In fact, shit, I probably need to get on something, right? That type of thing. But oftentimes, when you acknowledge your full self, it also does a thing of it has the gift of decentralizing the littler aspect of you, right? So that if you're like stressing about something, but then you remember that you are a wave that began with God and began with the universe and came to this point and will continue after in whatever form, right? It will continue after in whatever form. The little things all of a sudden aren't as daunting or painful to us and things like that. Mozi even sounds similar to the word muse. Yeah, it's shockingly similar. Yeah, muse. More evidence that overall languages have African roots. Yeah, very good point. Yeah, Mozi sounds just like muse. Um, there's a bunch of nothing that kind of thing, right? But there are spirits that will come into the world with you. There are spirits that can see things before they happen, right? There are spirits that give you song, the ability for song. They give you vision for writing, right? You can just create at whatever. And you may think it's just you. You may think these things are just coming from you because you're particularly special, right? But then life will always give you those situations where you realize, oh, this isn't coming from me, right? So you say things like, oh, I lost my inspiration, right? I'm not inspired anymore. That type of thing. If you think of the word spirit and inspire have the same etymology, same roots. It's air. It's like a breathing, right? That's spirit and inspire, right? So if you're saying you're inspired, you're saying that a spirit has entered you and is doing something with you, right? That kind of thing. And there are spirits that follow you, and that's what they're supposed to do. Like, hey, let me dance for you right now. Chill out. Let me take this. Let me do it. That kind of thing, right? They're with you. But if you fall into the trap of thinking it's just you, you'll suddenly see these things dwindling and dwindling and dwindling. Some of you may have developed specific rituals for activating those moles, these specific spirits that occupy you and do things through you, or give you song or give you music. Oh, I'm really creative when I'm in the shower. Oh, I need to take a walk before I can get really creative. Da 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 da. Right? It's almost like you're asking something for like permission. You're trying to turn on a car that's not turning on. That type of thing. So you acknowledge it's not you. Because if I want to move my hand, I can move my hand. Right? But if I want to come up with, I don't know, whatever the hell it takes, and I need to take a walk and take a nap and that kind of thing, maybe get 2 cups of coffee, then it's not 100% me. It's not 100% me. It's something else, right? So when you're in the process of it, you're acknowledging that thing. You're saying that, okay, I know this is not all the way me. It's coming from this thing in my orbit. It's coming from my moon, or it's coming from my Saturn, or it's coming from my Jupiter. And you're acknowledging it and you're cultivating that relationship. You're cultivating that relationship, right? I go to my altar, I bring my ancestors, and I bring my entire orbit, Audrey, and I say, all right, I'm acknowledging you guys, that type of thing, right? Because once you're aware of the full scale of yourself, once you're aware of everything your chi brought into the world and calls you, that universe, you'll have very little reason to be asking. There'll be nothing for you to left to ask for, because you'll understand, one, the things that are for you are already coming, or they're already on your path, or you're already equipped to receive them. And the things that are not coming to you, not on your path, not for you, are not for you. And it's okay, right? So then there's less reason for that thing and there's more acceptance, the idea of acceptance. So Ekpere, the idea of Ekpere is acknowledging spirits, or not Ekpere, but most of what we call Ekpere in Odinani and Igbo, which is not Ekpere, is acknowledging spirits. Iwaji, Igofo. Now, Igofo is, I did this with the Oji. Igofo is, I will do it with my Ofo. And in doing that, I'm specifically acknowledging my ancestors and the land, right? Specifically acknowledging my ancestors with Igofo. So typically, Igofo is done by the patriarch of the family. So, like the father of a household or the oldest son, however a family delineates it, and that kind of thing. Every household is going to have its own Ofo. So then the prayer leader, they call him Dibiaulo, the Dibia of the house, which is the father, is going to do Igofo every morning and give acknowledgments to the ancestors on behalf of the whole family. If anybody else wants to do their own, that's fine too. But this one, I'm doing it on behalf of the entire family because as the Dibia Ulo, that's my responsibility, right? So, like in my own family, I am my father's first son, and he is his father's first son, right? So I'm going to receive the offer for that original ancestor, which is Ukwebu. Wait, I'll go back. Offer, Ukwebu, yeah, Ukwebu, which is Ukwebu. Ukwebu was a father-in-law's father, and so my grandfather was his first son, that kind of thing. So I have the offer. Anybody who descends from Ukwebu, I'm going to do ego offer for them, right? I'm going to acknowledge the ancestors on behalf of everybody. I'm praying for, don't call it prayer. I pray for everybody in the morning when I now have the offer. And then my son will have the offer and he'll do that for everybody else, and that kind of thing. But then, like, let's say my younger brother, he's going to do ego for his specific family, right? And then his children will do for his descendants and so forth, right? That kind of thing. But it's acknowledging those ancestors and keeping them in the family and sometimes updating them on what's happening. Just keeping that relationship alive. Most of what you're going to be seeing, or that gets called prayer, is the keeping. This is the idea of keeping a relationship alive. Okay, just remember, I've moved out. Let me say every Saturday I'm going to call my mom. You know, oh, I'm going to do something nice for my wife every now and then, so on and so forth. It is the exact same thing. It is the cultivation of a relationship, right? So, what happens when I, as the descendants of my ancestors, am going there and I'm just constantly asking for right? After a while, it becomes a matter of, hey, this one again. Okay, what do you need? Okay, job interview, no problem. That kind of thing, right? The best way to understand it is Odinani Ndibo acknowledges personhood beyond the human being, right? I acknowledge the personhood of a river. I acknowledge the personhood of the sky. I acknowledge the personhood of those who are no longer with us. And in acknowledging the personhood of those individuals, I afford them the same amount of respect I would, an acknowledgement I would acknowledge or afford a person, a terrestrial person, right? So that if I receive water from a river regularly, I'm going to go give that water thanks after a while, right? Or maybe I can go every morning if there's something I feel particularly connected to the river with, right? So I'm giving you Neme, we're acknowledging you, so on and so forth. It's acknowledgments. And that's the big difference in the African tradition as opposed to the Mediterranean traditions, right? In the African tradition is about acknowledgement. I'm going to acknowledge this, so acknowledge that kind of thing, so that my full spiritual orbit is alive and awake and moving with me. And once you figure out how to do that and you move into the rhythm or the tide of being able to do that, I have personally seen tremendous benefits as a human being, right? Tremendous benefits, right? So if anybody wants to try it, that thing. So, but all those things do not classify as it, where it gets called that just because um, when the Europeans encounter other people, everything they're doing becomes it becomes they put it in religious language. And in order to understand why that was happening, you have to understand when high colonialism, when the Europeans really went ham, happened was when religion was dying out in Europe. So that if I want to discredit things in that time, I would give it religious something, right? Give me just 1 second. I'm coming. Give me 1 minute. I have a group study I'm doing right now. All right, my bad on that. So, as I was saying, the full acknowledgement, right? Acknowledging the individual parts of yourself allows you to have full dexterity on a spiritual level of who you are, a full understanding and a full grasp of the full and complete you, right? So then, Ekpere, just like Ipe, becomes an entirely different thing from prayer. Ekpere is the same thing as Ipe. So Ipe is when two people are having a dispute and we go to a second person to settle that dispute. Maybe we're arguing and we're saying, what was Michael Jackson's second album? This person thinks it was Thriller. This person thinks it was bad. And then we go to somebody who knows better and we ask that person a question. That person has performed Ipe intervention, right? So then on the level of Epe, it's the same thing, right? We are going to something beyond the living realm, right? For it to intervene in one way or another. So when I'm doing Igaji, I'm not asking for intervention. When I'm doing Igafo, I'm not asking for intervention. When I'm doing anything in the tradition, I'm not, or any of those things that are classified as Ekpere is not doing that. But there are situations where I can go to something for intervention, right? We're going to go fight a battle. I'm going to need you with me. This and this and that. I'm going on a long journey. I'm going to need you with me. This and this and that. Okay, somebody has done this to me. I don't know who it is. Show me a sign. That is Ekpere. That is Ekpere, is when you're asking for intervention. And it is not what you're going to do most. What you're going to do most is acknowledgements so that the relationship is warm. And then when it's time, you need XYZ or this and this and that, you then ask for the intervention. So I go back to the concept of Muozi. You can identify the Muozi in your own life. If you have a particular talent, right, or something about you that is special, or a capacity to do something beyond a normal level, right? I can form something to represent it, and I can give it its acknowledgments. That talent or that thing I'm able to do, I can give it its acknowledgments, and then, right, if I need it, I need you with me. I'm going to go do this thing. I need you with me. That is Ipe to the or Ekpere, or not Ipe, sorry, Epe, Ekpere, that kind of thing. Is asking for intervention. Now, when Ekpere got translated into prayer, sure, because most prayer, Christian prayer, I believe, is like hey, we need this, keep us safe, this and this and that, all that stuff, right? So it's not 100% wrong. But there's other cases where that can happen, right? That has nothing to do with prayer. So the same way I can ask an individual to hold court for me, I can ask Mo or an Abara to hold court, right? Okay, this person is saying they didn't do this thing, and I'm saying I didn't do this thing. Let the one that's innocent be struck or guilty be struck dead, right? Back in the day, they used even till this day, in my area, Ogungun is the most popular Arishi. And Arishi is a space or a device that is created to channel a particular energy, right? Ogungun is very powerful. It's not powerful in the sense that they say it's powerful. It's powerful because it works, right? So the thing is about Arishi is somebody will establish it and they can claim it does this and this and that. But if it doesn't do that thing, people don't go. It's like, okay, that thing he's just talking. It doesn't work. But the ones that people visit often, right, are the ones that have proven that they work. Hey, I went to this place and I said this and this thing happened. I asked for intervention. This thing happened. I think you should go too, right? And that's how those things. So Ogungun was the one, and everybody's deeply afraid of that one in my area because it's very powerful. I remember my cousin stole my uncle's radio and sold it. And he didn't want to admit it. So they threatened him that, okay, we're going to go to Uncle and you're going to swear that you didn't do it. He came right there. Okay, I'm the one that stole it, that kind of thing. Right. So okay, we're going to go over here and do that thing. That's Ikpe. We're going to ask for spiritual intervention. Now, typically what will happen if there's a dispute between two people, whomever is the all-fall holder between them is going to be the one that they go to for the intervention, right? So for right now, like my father is the all-fall holder in in my family. There's a dispute between two people, they're going to go to him for the intervention because he's the connection between the living members of the family and the non-living because he holds the awful, right? So they go to him for the intervention. If they're not happy with his intervention, they can now ask for, let's say, a council of titled people and so on and so forth, however they want to do it. If they're not happy with that intervention, they can now take it to a lot more and go perform Ekpere, the intervention on a spiritual level, right? But typically, when it gets to that level, you get a confession very, you get a confession very quickly, right? Once it gets to that level, you get a confession very quickly, which is why they do that particular tradition has not gone anywhere. So I wanted to see. So is a libation a form of prayer? No. What do you call prayer? Carol, that's a good question. What do you call prayer? I would not say it's acknowledgement. It's acknowledgement. So like here in America, I mean, people do libations all the time, right? So you'll have a drink, okay, dead homies, whatever you want to call it. You're acknowledging them that the way I'm drinking and enjoy this, I want you to drink and enjoy this wherever you are. I'm acknowledging you. That's all it is. I'm acknowledging you. And it's paramount. It's paramount because that person is still with you, is a part of that universe that is you. Is part of that, or is orbiting around your sun, that type of thing. And when you acknowledge that person, you keep that relationship alive, you keep it warm, you keep their more alive, that type of thing. So libation, I wouldn't call it prayer, but it's acknowledgement, acknowledgement, that type of thing. One of the things you'll see when an individual performs just about anything at an altar is that they'll draw 4 lines of nzu, and then sometimes they'll pour a libation on each line. So each of those lines are the 4 market days, and they are feeding they're giving the market days their drinks, right? A lot of times, even in the North American traditions, like African based traditions, you'll see somebody, they'll take like food to their altar. Okay, this is what we're having for breakfast, and they'll take it there and so forth, right? That's acknowledgement. Hey, we're having breakfast. Here's your plate. And that's the fundamental part. You're still a part of my family. You're still a part of me, right? I'm having a drink of coffee. Here's a little bit for you, that type of thing. Okay, I'm about to eat this all, G. Here's your own. Go and take some. It's acknowledgement, that kind of thing. So, libation for a prayer. Yes, spirit, expire, inspire, respiratory, etc. All has to do with breathing, 100%. My phone is frozen, but my tablet is fine. Okay, I don't know what it's about. Z sounds like that. Cool. Okay, so I'm open to questions. I think I've pointed out the difference between Ekpere and prayer. One of the things I also wanted to isolate were the different things that get classified as Ekpere, but they're not necessarily. So there's Iwaji, the breaking of the Oji, which is just done when there's a gathering of more than one person, including when you go to your altar, right? There's Igolfo, when you are doing something very similar with the Alfo. Now, Igolfo is going to look different from Iwaji because Igolfo is very, while you're doing it for everybody that comes from the same ancestors, your kin, that kind of thing, there is a difference in that it's a little more personal, right? So before you go to the Alfo, in whatever order you want to do it, you're going to need to do 3 things. The first is you're going to need to show your worthiness of holding that awful, right? So what you'll hear is a lot of people that'll say, my hands are clean, right? Meaning I have not used them to commit evil. My legs are clean, my feet are clean, my heart is clean, my mind is clean. They'll say all these different things. My mouth is clean, my face is clean, right? And whatever the metaphorical application of the body part is, what you're implying has not been used to commit evil or was not wrong. Because an individual who has committed aru, who has committed evil or committed an abomination against somebody is not worthy of holding the awful, and there's a punishment for that person. There's ogu, right? Like cosmic punishment in the air, waiting for that person if they've committed evil and they go to hold that same lawful, right? So that the how was I gonna say the offer itself, right? There's a worthiness that you need in order to speak to it or hold it, right? There's an ilu. It's a very simple one. It's very popular, but it goes very far as Odinani and Igbo goes, which is a child who washes their hands can eat with the kings, right? So you are showing the kings, the Alpha, that you are worthy of eating and communing and speaking to them and so forth. You are worthy of holding that Alpha, right? So you're going to list all the things you have negations. I always use the examples of the 48 laws of Ma'at because once I learned about this particular tradition, I understood what the 48 laws of Ma'at was. It was an individual saying, this is why I'm worthy of holding the Ankh, or this is how I'm still in alignment, right? Or they say that you're, anyways, let me not go into that. Maybe Ross is an Egyptologist. He can break that down. Hey, Isabel, donation. Isabel, why, Alma? Hey, why, Kadima? Werekwa ọjị, ị ga-adị, ị ga-amụ, ị ga-eto, nke ọbụla i tiri obi gị, ọ ga-adị n'ụwa a. He said, thank you so much, Isabel. All this helps the channel, helps me as a person and my family. So thank you. The chi ilu is about ignoring your chi and forgets you. Ross, I don't understand what you're saying with that. If you can say it in different words, the chi ilu, the one about ignoring your chi and forgets you. Okay, yeah. Madu chefuru chia, chia chefu, yeah, madu chefu chia, chia chefu madu, that kind of thing. So yeah, he said, Derek, not a question, but my surname is Anyang. Wow. Oh, wow. I just felt inclined to call you Anyang Tutu. So that is very cool. You're blessed that you mentioned it. That is very cool. Sure, Ross, I'll type that. Madu Chefu Chia Chefu Chi Chia Chefu. There are different ways of saying it. Madon is going to be two M's. So the first one I spelt wrong. Hey, donation. Mwa Biafra, bro, you did a really good job in your explanation. Ibaya, Chiku Gaziegi, Chi, Ejelebe, Ebem, no. Okay, Chi Ejele, Ebem, Dalurine, Kachi Fono. Hi, Mwa Biafra. Hi, Mwa Biafra. Nwa rising sun. Okay. Odogwu Ojukwu. Hey, nwa kara dị mma, werekwa ọjị ka m jikwa ọjị kelee gị maka ihe i mere taa ni. Ọ dị ka iwu onye nwere obi ọma, ị nwere uche ọma, jisie ike nwanne m, anyị ga-afụ. Ise, cool. What you say one should do, knowing their family ancestral order, OB. Yeah. Oh, okay. And the family is suffering setbacks, delays. You know, Chidima, that just seems to be the very common trend where the altar is destroyed, and then everything just starts falling apart, and it makes perfect sense. It makes perfect sense. It can be restored. It can be restored. We've had very important things restored in my family. So everything can be restored because those physical things, while they're important, right? And it's important to keep them, they are representations of something abstract or something that's non-physical, right? But that physical thing becomes a beacon that allows it to come together, right? Or allows it to activate, turn on, right? It's like the Wi-Fi box is not necessarily the Wi-Fi, but it's the Wi-Fi box that allows us to tap into that thing called Wi-Fi, right? So somebody goes and smashes the router, because Jesus said so, then all of a sudden none of us have internet, that kind of thing. So you can always get a new box and get it reactivated. And it's sad when you had one that goes back 500, 300, 200 years, sometimes 1,000, and some guy comes and destroys it because I don't know, Jesus said so. And so, so it sucks when you lose something that valuable and that treasured. But if I were you, I would see if you can find like-minded family members and get those things restored because they can be restored. And there was a spree of awful burning in my community, I think in like the mid 2000s. We had some like extra fanatic, I want to say Catholic priest who was telling everybody that the poor like, and if you were poor, he was telling you the reason you're poor is because the all fall of the rich people are using their all fall to hold everybody down. And so, which I don't know what part of the Bible that's in, but cool. And so then they formed like a little Taliban, and they went from like house to house trying to get people's all fall and burning it. And some of them burnt their own. And then they just started seeing like a lot of disaster. So then there was this like time where people were racing to restore their all fall in my community and so forth. And when this was happening, I didn't believe any of this. I was just like, okay, beliefs, tradition, I respected it, but I didn't believe it. And then when I started seeing the sequence of events that would happen after, like I had one family where they destroyed their all fall, and then like three of the first sons in their clan died, just like pop, 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 just different random reasons, right? And then they ran and went and restored their all fall and that kind of thing. So those things are very important. How of them are doing church? Yeah, there's the way Nigerians are. There's in the church, but in the church are not always like, some of them are somehow they're thinking these things, but they're there because it's just the culture and the way of being. Like even when I'm Nigerian, I say things like, "Oh, Jesus, thank God that," but I'm not like, it's just the culture. So the Ingwende, what they call Ogomo in your family. Hey, Njoku Health and Wellness Group. Mado Dimma Ngozi, bro. Thank you for the continuous informative content. Hi, Igade. Njoku G. Aha Njoku. Na-enye mmadụ ihe ala na-enye mmadụ werekwa ọjị eji m ọjị ike na-ekele gị. Mana ọ dị ka iwu onye obiọma, werekwa ọjị nye ọbụla itinye aka ọ ga-eto n'ụwa ọ ga-adị n'ahụ n'eke orie afọ na nkwọ ise. Thank you very much for that, Njoku. Appreciate it. I'm seeing some hidden comments, so I hope you guys aren't wilding, but I'm going to hit show. Eggs, nutters are some of the craziest people. Yeah, they're wild. They're wild and aggressive. If they were wild into themselves, that'd be cool, but they're wild and aggressive. And I don't say all Abrahamic faith because like Jewish people tend to mind their own business and do their own thing. So it's mainly Islam and Christianity. But it's if I don't know if I should even get into this, but Islam and Christianity are designed to spread, right? And if you understand the concepts of masculine and feminine energy as far as cosmology goes, and then you look at what Islam and Christianity condemn and celebrate, they're the same religion, by the way. They're the exact same religion. There's no difference. They're just structured different. I guess I can talk about that. You'll see that they're designed to just do this and spread. And part of that spreading is destroying whatever's in the way, that kind of thing. Whereas Judaism is not designed to spread. Jewish people don't go door to door and say, hey, come join us, that kind of thing. They're designed to preserve. It preserves. So, but they're all Abrahamic. But Islam, Christianity are the exact same religion. There's no difference. It's just Arabic and whatever language you use to do your Christianity with. To better understand Christianity, you have to remember that the first Christianity in the West was the Catholic Church. And in the Catholic Church, the faithful or the flock aren't really Christians. They are following a Christian who is the priest. The priest is the Christian. The priest is the Christ-like person, and everybody else is following and trying to be more like that person and using that person as a model. Now, if you consider that and look at what a nun wears and what a hijabi wears, you look at what a priest wears and look at what an imam wears, you'll notice the exact same religion. The difference is in Islam says that let's all do this. It's not just going to be the elite people. It's going to be every single one of us. Let's all do it. And then the Christianity says that we'll do it so you don't have to. But if you want to do it, act like me. So but it's the exact same religion. Show Hebrew Israelites. Yeah, the Hebrew Israelites want their spread, but I get the sense that the Hebrew Israelites are Christians too. They've just, instead of like watching Star Wars and saying I like Jedis, they're saying no, I'm the Jedi. So, so in the end, it's just a Star Wars fan. May you do a video or conversation on Chidama's question: how can we work with our ancestors for restoration? Good question. Yeah, I can do. I think I get that question enough that it would make sense to do a video on how to restore these things. I would have to look into one of the things I don't know off the top of my head are like the specific ceremonies for restoring particular things. Like, for example, your Agung altar. If a family has an Agung altar, I don't know how to restore it. I know the ceremony for initiating it, and maybe you need to reinitiate it, but I don't know the restoration one. So I have to look into that. I would also have to look into how much of it can be done on your own. I would say just about all of it because the first person to do it did it on their own. So I would say all of it, but I'll just double check because I don't want to be talking. Uche Okeke, hey, Uche Okeke. Daalụ nwanne, ị ga-adị, ị ga-eto, nke ọbụla itiri aka ọ ga-eto n'ụwa a ga-adị n'ahụ na eke na orie na afọ na nkwọ ise werekwa ọjị nwanne m. Daalụ. No. Uche, thank you so much for that. Comment, Chimoge's comment, it was Assemblies of God Church in Omaha. Chai! That deceived my uncle to destroy. Chidamaya, it can be restored if you're planning on getting married. I would just focus on that family and just let the other family do what they do. Because you're gonna run into roadblocks. But if I would focus on your family to come also, some families have already destroyed themselves. You know, once you destroy that thing called the all fall, the whole thing is gonna fall apart, one way or another. So I would do that. But if you're focused more on your father's family and you want them to restore their things, just find just use a strong heart and go talk to them and convince them that they need to restore these things and there was no reason to destroy them and so forth. Maybe send them a few medicine shell videos so they'll stop being so scary. Cool. So yeah, but yeah, I can do a video on that. I think that's a really good topic. Yes, I need a video for restoration. Ross also shall be joining the Patreon soon. He said, Joko, I think you used to be on there. So we're looking forward to having you back, unless there's somebody walking around with a Njoku Health and Wellness Group as like a stole your identity just to join Patreon. But yeah, no, I think I remember you used to be on there. So yeah, we're looking forward to having you back. Well, the longer the church is named, the crazier. Yeah, I'm beginning to wonder. You know, the Nigerian Christianity is a very specific thing, and it's just, man, I don't know. I don't want to get into that. Just a whole lot of long ass names and accusations and families fighting each other and that kind of thing. And the longer the name, the more people are going to get accused of doing juju on somebody. And they're always the ones talking about juju, by the way. When are you going to make videos on Irish like Njokuji? Njokuji is coming soon. So if you want to see a video, the best way to get it done if you're not on the Patreon is to comment under the video and say, I want you to do a video on blank. I want you to do a video on this, that kind of thing. Because when I'm doing my videos, I'll go like since my last video, I'll go and look at all the comments and like what people are requesting. And then I put it up for vote on the Patreon. So the AZ patrons pick, and then everybody else votes on which order the two that the AZ patrons picked will go. It's like way too complicated of a process for a YouTube channel. But so far so good. And so, like for example, now the video I'm doing next for market days, it won a vote, I think like 2 months ago, that kind of thing. So if you want to see your video, put it in the comments because that's what gets voted on. And then if people in the Patreon agree, then that's what it's gonna be. Or you can join the Patreon so that you can stuff the ballot box, you know. The festival is very interesting. Cool. Okay. I've been looking for medicine shell video for my dad. Okay, cool. Wait, what'd she say? I've been forwarding medicine shell. Chidima, what has your dad said? I always find it interesting when people say that they've shown their parents and things like that. Try to find a man in your family that's willing to advocate for you as well. Chimoge, well done. Yes, yes, yes. I'm starting to believe that men are unapologetic in our practice of Odinani. Yeah, it's the really, really fanatic people are usually women or like poor men or how do I explain it? But the ones that have like those Pete Edochie, find the guy that looks like Pete Edochie in your family. He'll back you up. And I'm not saying that like, yeah, but sometimes it's not the dynamic. But I know in my own family, it's like the poor men and the women. But like the men are just kind of like, okay, fine, you want to go to church, sure, we'll go. But like if you start talking this medicine shell talk to them, like, hey, yes, they'll agree. So if you can find dudes in your family to back you up, that's cool. Every now and then you get that rare auntie that'll also back you up, and she's usually a fighter, so you need one of those on your side too. Let's leave that alone. There's like a YouTube Hebrew Israelite, everybody else debate cipher, and I kind of don't want to get thrown into it. So let's leave them boys alone. Not that I'm worried about it. I'd smoke them, but shit don't go no. It's useless. Just people arguing and making noise. But all right, guys, I think I'm gonna wrap it up. This has been a really cool discussion. I hope that you guys picked up something from it. Um, if you want to support the channel, a good way to support is, of course, hitting the thumbs up. We have 37 people in here and 33 thumbs up. So that means that some couple of buddies, 4 people have not hit thumbs up. So if you haven't hit thumbs up already, that is the easiest way to support the channel. Hit thumbs up on the video, and yeah, to show support. Next best way to support is to share my videos with somebody. So Chinama said that she sends them to her dad. I still want to know what her dad thinks. I don't know if she said it already. Chidamara, yeah, I would like to know what your dad thinks about the videos, but sending it to somebody who you think would be interested or needs to hear this. The next best way to support, and this is the best way to support, is by joining the Patreon at patreon.com/the medicine shell. I always say this, but patrons have access to my in-house library. So the things that I read to get to the point that I'm at has a lot of rare books that you're not going to find elsewhere, first-hand documents, things like that, all separated by category. So if you can think there's something in there and so forth for you. You also have access to the library, the full in-house library, and so forth. Or library, I'm sorry, calendar. My brain is so fried, but you have access to the calendar where you know what market day it is. In fact, I forgot to check before coming in here. Today is Eke. Yes, today's Eke. So you get access to the library, the calendar with the moons, the 13 moons and their meanings, different holidays and acknowledgements. By the way, if you're community has a particular masquerade or holiday or thing that you guys do, message me and let me know if you know the time it starts so that I can put it in the calendar so that I can include as many communities as possible. Right now, a lot of the stuff I have is like heavy on Icha because they have a website where they list all their holidays. So everybody else, I want to see more stuff and that kind of thing. And yeah, and then of course we have a group study. So it's just like this, only we're talking this like on Zoom. So like people are giving their inputs and we're talking back and forth on different topics and so forth. So those are the ways you can support the channel. Otherwise, do you have a contract? Do you have a script writer? Okay, I'm going to read a few comments and I'm going to hop out. Your videos have inspired you to make a media on African-based fantasy. He said, "Hey, the extra best way to support the channel is to do what ha just said." So, yeah, man, that's really cool. Send me if you can send me anything, so I can take a look at it. That would be cool. I'm sure there's people in here that want to work with you and collaborate with you and so forth. So that's really cool that you're doing that. It's phenomenal. My favorite thing to hear is when people say, "Oh, I watched one of your videos and I started blank. I watched your video, I started blank. I did this." So just taking these traditions and putting them in different forms. And the level I'm giving it now, which is just like raw information and speech and that kind of thing, not everybody can receive things at that level or receive this particular subject at that level. So it helps when people are making music and movies and shows and like just drawing or art, right? It's very hard. When I'm doing my videos, I include art from different places, and it's really hard to find deified black males, right? If you want to get stressed out, type in like black male god or something like that. It's very hard for me to find a reasonable picture, right? What I always find is some guy crying and like somebody yanking a Bible out of him or something crazy. Like he's always crying. He's always half naked. There's one where he's like carrying the world and the lady's just chilling with the baby and stuff. So you always find these goofy ass pictures. So if we can get more of those, like when I look for, if I look for like a picture of Neme, there's billions to choose from. I think women have done a really good job. Black women have done a really good job of putting themselves in art in that context, right? So the dudes, or maybe women who want to lend us a few characters, we need that, that type of thing. But when you type in like I'm looking for Amadioha, I'm looking for Njokuji, I'm looking for, it's like you're not finding anything. So if you can draw, and I'm gonna spend some time on this because it's actually like a pet peeve of mine. If you're artistically inclined, we need that. We really need that. It helps. It does a lot. It does a lot. It does a lot. So that would be really cool if you did that. But yeah, it's one of my favorite things is when you guys say I started this or I began doing this because of that. So that's awesome. Script writer, lol, that's true. If you manage to find one, he's light skinned or looks of it. Yeah, usually. Yeah. Like the wavy hair and shit. Yeah. Yeah, it's really hard to find. It was like that was one of the things I was like, wait, this is weird. And I kept looking and looking at because I thought I didn't think it would be that hard, right? But if I find like black woman, earth goddess, a whole bunch of them, that kind of thing. So maybe dudes, maybe males should step up. Maybe did you say Njoku G's male? Some people say I Njoku or Njoku G's female. Some people say male. I say male. I have my reasons for saying male. So when I do video, I will explain why. But yeah, I believe Njoku G's male. But yeah, some people say both. No, not. I'm sorry. Some people say female. A lot of people say female, right? That kind of thing. And when I do the video, there are specific communities I'm going to look into because they're the ones that really hone in on that particular tradition. And I'm going to see why there's that dynamic. The same thing with Anyanwu and Njoku. Some people will say female, some people will say male. With Anyanwu, I understand very well why they say both, and they're not. Neither of them are wrong, right? Neither of them are wrong. Most say female, like 8 out of 10 will say female, but some will say male. And then like you check why they're saying male, like, oh, okay, that makes sense, that kind of thing. So, all right, guys, Ogola, as always, unogade, unogeto, kabala no tiri ogade no wa, ogade na huneke, norie, na fo, na nkwo. He said, awesome. All right, guys, take care. I don't like sending my contact info to the public. Oh yeah, let me get out of here. I'm gonna be here reading comments all day. All right, take care, guys.